I have genuinely no idea how I should even go about starting this video. I mean, this collection is just very confusing to me. For context, I normally make videos about Capcom, and that's what this channel usually does, but I decided to make the odd Metal Gear video because I know a lot of my followers happen to be fans of those games as well, and truth be told, I'm a really big fan of Metal Gear. I regularly integrate Metal Gear jokes and references into all of my Capcom videos. I don't know why, it's just, I love doing that shit, you know? To say I was extremely hyped for the Master Collection would be a misunderstanding. I made sure to keep my expectations in check. I was kind of expecting these ports to be bad, but I somehow, somehow, even though I try to keep my expectations in check, I can't help but feel like this port was a little weird. It's not boo-boo, it's not a bad port. I actually really like this collection. The problem is I don't like how Konami implemented it. I don't like how Konami went about presenting this collection. I have a lot of issues with that in specific. The bulk of this video is going to be complaining about image quality of these ports because that's easily my biggest problem with this. For context, you know, I did work in a software engineering background. I'm not a professional. I wouldn't even say I'm good at it necessarily, but I am somewhat knowledgeable about this subject. I also have a background in VFX and GPU rendering, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm going to try to express my opinion in a professional way, but I just want to put the disclaimer out there that I'm not the end all be all. I'm not the most professional opinion out there, but I wanted to give my own impressions about how this port works and some of the problems that I personally have with it. Easily the game I wanted to play the most was Metal Gear Solid 1, and unfortunately this is easily the most unimpressive of the ports in this collection as well. As eager as I was to check out MGS2 and MGS3 again and just relive those games, I was the most excited for MGS1. But man, when I booted up this collection, there's no nice way to put it. This looks like fucking dog shit, to be honest with you. I can't get over this filtering. I can't get over how it's presented. This really cheesy circuit board border shit that they have going on. It's all just so weird to me. I'm just amazed that some Konami employee looked at this and said, yeah, this looks reasonable. Easily the biggest problem is the resolution. When I heard that this game was going to be 720p upscaled to 1080p, I didn't really think much of it. I assumed maybe there was some technical reason for it, but I'm looking at it now and I'm kind of just sitting here amazed that it really does look this fucking bad somehow. I can kind of see what they were going for. They wanted to preserve the original chunkiness of the PSX, and I have no problem with that. The problem is the filtering. Because of how the pixels are being scaled up, the overall image looks very blurry and unappealing to look at. I realize I'm gonna have some people tell me, well, yeah, that's what the game looks like on a CRT TV, but here's my take, okay? I didn't ask Konami to emulate the experience of playing this game on a CRT TV. I just wanted Metal Gear Solid 1. If they want to emulate a TV or something, that's perfectly fine, but make it an optional filter. They could have a CRT filter and then a nearest neighbor filter and just allow me to switch between the two. That's kind of what collections usually do. I remember the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection did the same thing. We've established that Konami is not scaling the resolution in a way that looks good, but the resolution itself is also a problem. For MGS1, I don't understand why they can't just run the game at a higher resolution. This is not a problem. It is not that hard to run a PS1 game at a higher resolution than what it's designed for. There are emulators like DuckStation that can do this perfectly fine. The 30 FPS I can actually get. There is some merit to not being able to run a PS1 game at twice the rate that it's supposed to refresh at. I understand that games back then aren't as scalable as they are nowadays. That's why I actually don't mind the 30 FPS. If anything, the game actually looks really smooth considering it is 30 FPS. What is scalable on the PlayStation 1 is the 3D resolution of the game, and that's what I'm kind of upset about. Once again, they could have made this an option. They could have gave me the option to preserve the chunkiness of the old game, or they could have had me render it at a native resolution that's more compatible with my monitor. Now, ironically enough, I can actually get behind MGS2 and MGS3 not running in 4K. I have a 4090, okay? Like, I definitely have a 4K capable system, but I've tried running MGS2 and MGS3 in 4K in PCSX2, and let me tell you, those games cannot maintain a proper frame rate under those settings. It's just too intense for that emulator to handle. Now, you might be saying, Rainen, these aren't the PS2 games. These are the HD collection games, you know? This is the version of the games that were on the 360 and the PS3. And yes, you'd be right. and emulating those systems are even more complicated than emulating a PlayStation 2. But once again, what they're trying to do is hide the base resolution of the game. These games are 720p up converted to 1080p, and that's a huge problem. I don't understand why they can't just natively run it at 1080p. The reason I say this is because PS3 and Xbox 360 emulators do exist, and they, just like DuckStation, allow you to run at a higher native resolution. I can get not doing 4K. I have no issue with that. That's a very demanding target to hit. But 1080p, I cannot get behind. That is not a lot to ask, especially not in today's day and age. Which is why part of me wonders if there's some sort of limitation that I just don't know about. It's certainly not a software limitation because I would have been able to find it myself, I feel like. Maybe Konami was hamstringed in some sort of way that they simply don't want to admit. And that's what makes this weird. The fact that Konami is actively confirming our findings that the resolution is very wonky in this collection, but for some reason they're not explaining why. And it's just bizarre. I feel like Konami doesn't realize that we would be very understanding of the reason why this would be the case if they would just explain it to us. And do you want to know what makes this so extra jarring? The fact that the rest of the collection looks just fine. I actually really like the UI design. I like the books that they included in it. I like all of the other aspects of this collection. It's an insanely high quality job. You can tell Konami put an absurd amount of effort into this collection, which makes it all the more jarring that they really sat down, looked at these games and said, yeah, this looks good enough. They have their priorities in the entirely wrong place. The polish didn't go into the games, it went into the medium that you launched the games from, which brings us to the collection as a whole. This is a great collection. I actually really like it. You know, if I can get past the resolution issues that I have with it, this is actually a really cool collection to have. There's so much in it. The problem is the price point. That's the biggest problem. I paid $60 to get this, and I feel like I got a $60 job in the menus. I feel like I got a $60 job with the book they put in. I do not feel like I got a $60 job with the video games, and that's the main reason I bought the collection. This would be understandable if this was something I downloaded off of like PSN back on like the PS3 era. You know, if it was just like a really shitty like emulated port of MGS1 or some shit, you know, like something for like $5. But I paid $60 for this collection. That is already absurd. This collection really should have been like $20. There's just no getting around the fact that they're charging $60 just to sell us games we've already played. This isn't Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Like, this isn't a new Metal Gear game. So why they're charging us like it is just bizarre. These are games that many of us have already played. Would we like to play them again? Yeah, but we don't want to spend $60 to do it. Konami can throw in all the little goodies they want. They can make the menus look as pretty as they want. They could even throw in as many Metal Gear games as humanly possible. But it's never going to justify the $60 price tag, especially considering that I would have a better experience if I literally downloaded these games, pirated them, and just emulated them. And that's the crux of it all. I paid for this game and I got the inferior experience. I could just go on Vim's Lair and download these fucking ROMs and put them in DuckStation, and I would have a better gameplay experience than if I gave Konami $60 just to play this fucking ass-smeared port of Metal Gear Solid 1. It is insane, and that's what has me the most frustrated. I just want to say to Konami, by releasing the collection this way, you're just gonna encourage people to pirate. And you don't want that. You want the Metal Gear series to take off, right? You want it to start making you money again. So why are you actively encouraging people to pirate? They should have the superior experience giving you money. They shouldn't have the inferior one. I really do think Konami should reevaluate the price point that they're asking for this game. I would personally prefer 20. If they could knock it down to 40, I guess that would be good enough, but I mean, it really needs to be 20. This price needs to be way more accessible, especially if you're trying to get people hyped for Snake Eater. And trust me, $20, that's pretty generous. I can see the comments already all like, this collection should have been 10. This collection should have been 5. This collection should have been 2. I don't know. It's like 20 seems like a nice round number. You know, you have the book in there. You have all these games in there. I'm willing to pay 20 for this, but I didn't pay 20 for this. I paid 60, and that's my biggest problem. I don't feel like I got $60 worth. I feel like I got 20. And this leads into future concerns I have about these master collections. If there is a master collection volume 2 and it happens to contain MGS4 and Peace Walker or MGS5 or anything like that, are those games gonna have resolution issues? If I get the HD version of Peace Walker, is that gonna be up converted to 1080p? Because that would look fucking terrible. I couldn't fathom putting more scaling on top of that, which is basically what they did with MGS1, by the way. It's an old game being scaled to 720p, then being scaled even more to 1080. Like what the fuck is going on, man? If I get MGS4 in Volume 2 and that image looks really fucking blurry and smeary and awful, I don't know what I would do, man. I would genuinely be mad at that point. Like, come on. Please do not ruin one of the best looking PS3 games, like, ever. Please do not make that game look hideous. Now, am I really this upset about the collection? Well, yeah, I'm mad about paying $60 for it, but you know, I'm not that miffed about the resolution. I'm not that miffed about any of the other problems that this collection has. When I use the gothic bad boy language and I say the bullshit and all the funny words and that, you know, that's for comedic effects, but the reality is I am actually really confused by this collection. It's just such a bizarre fucking port. But listening to my rant, I realized I cursed quite a lot. And, you know, if you're not familiar with my channel, welcome. I curse a lot on this channel. I don't make Metal Gear videos, so sorry if you were hoping to subscribe and see Metal Gear videos. You're not going to get any. If you like Capcom, though, I mean, if you found this unrelated Metal Gear video and you happen to like Capcom, I mean, that's basically fate putting us together. But yeah, if you want more Capcom stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I don't plan on making much more Metal Gear stuff, so yeah, sorry to disappoint. Konami, get your shit together, please. Like, I want to see you be a successful company again. Just do what you got to do, man. Please get your shit together.